The following Zoom session is being recorded and will appear later today on my YouTube channel, Math with Mayo. Therefore, when you participate in the Zoom meeting, if you do not wish for your picture or your name to be made public, please leave the video off and use an alias name. If you have questions during the meeting but do not wish to speak, email me at bmayo@ybcc.edu and I'll respond as soon as I can. So today we're going to go on and finish up the chapter. We're going to look at section 6.8. Tonight's assignment will be to do section 6.8 and the chapter review. Tomorrow during class, we will review for the chapter 6 test, which will be on Monday. Monday, we will not have a regular Zoom meeting class. You'll just take your test. It needs to be done anytime between now and Monday night at 11:59 p.m. Just a reminder, once you open the test, the time starts. And when the time's out, you're done. So don't start the test and then stop it and think you can come back 3 hours later and work more on it. Once you open it up, the time goes. Also a reminder, you emailed me back a test taking policy, basically saying you weren't going to cheat, you weren't going to use notes, you weren't going to use internet or friends or phones or anything to look things up during the test. When you are done with the test, as you're taking the test, keep track of the problems you miss. And if you want to email me the work leading up to those wrong answers, I will look at it to see if there's any partial credit I can give. If you correct that work and then send it in, that's not what I'm asking for. I won't even look at it. Just send me the work that led to the wrong answers if you want to see about getting some partial credit. All right, having said all of that, do you have any questions from yesterday's assignment you'd like to look at before we proceed? Anybody, anything? Do you have any questions about the test and how that works or anything? Okay, so again, it's going to be online, same format you've been using for your homework. Okay, well then let's get started. So we're going to take a look at section 6.8. Okay. We have an application problem. It says billiards. Pool tables are rectangular. I always find this funny because a billiard table is not the same as a pool table, but whatever. Pool tables are rectangular and their length is twice the width. Find the dimensions of a pool table if it occupies 50 square feet of floor space. All right, so we're dealing with a rectangular shaped table. Okay, that's a sad looking rectangle, but I'm going to go with it. We have a length and a width. It says their length is twice the width. The length is being compared to the width. So if we call the width x, the length would be twice x. Okay. Now, we're told that the area is 50 square feet. The formula for the area of a rectangle is that area equals length times width. We know again that the area is 50 feet. So 50 feet equals the length times the width. So 50 equals 2x times x. Well, I'm going to take 2x times x and get 2x squared. This is a second degree equation. I'm going to put it in standard form. I'd like to have my leading coefficient positive, so I'm going to move everything to the right side of the equation. It doesn't matter which side of the equation 0 is on, as long as one of the sides is 0. So now I have it in standard form. I see that I can take out a greatest common factor of a 2. What's left factors into the difference of 2 squares. So now I'm going to take each factor that contains a variable and set it equal to 0. So x plus 5 equals 0 and x minus 5 equals 0. Then I will solve each first degree equation. X plus 5 equals 0. Subtract 5 from both sides. X equals negative 5. X minus 5 equals 0. Add 5 to both sides. X equals 5. So the solutions to the equation are negative 5 and 5. But we're supposed to determine, let's see, find the dimensions, so the length and the width. Well, x equals negative 5 is a solution to the equation, but we can't have a negative length or a negative width. So this is not an acceptable solution for the actual problem. So if x is 5, 2x would be 2 times 5 or 10. All that's missing are the units, and the area was 50 square feet. So the length and the width would be in units of feet. So length is 10 feet. Width is 5 feet. Any questions about that particular example? All right. We're going to go on and look at an example involving a triangle. It says jeans. The height of the triangular shaped logo on a pair of jeans is 1 centimeter less than the length of its base. All right, so we have a triangle. The base is the bottom, and the height is the distance to the top perpendicular to the base. Okay, so it says the height of a triangular shaped logo on a pair of jeans is 1 centimeter less than the length of its base. So if the base is x, the height would be 1 centimeter less, or x minus 1. It says if the area of the logo is 15 square centimeters, so the area is 15 square centimeters, find the length of the base and the height. So in this particular problem, we're dealing with triangles and area of a triangle. The area of a triangle is 1/2 times the base times the height. So area is 15, the base is x, and the height is x minus 1. So there's our equation. Any questions about where I got the initial equation from? Well, I've got a 1/2 there, and I could distribute that and have to deal with it, but it seems to me it'd be nicer to get rid of it. So to clear the fractions, I'm going to multiply both sides of the equation by the least common denominator, which would be a 2. On the left side of the equation, I'm going to get 30. On the right side of the equation, 2 times 1/2 is 1. 1 times x is x. And then I've got this, which multiplying it out, simplifying it further, gives me that. Any questions about that? All right. This is a second degree equation. So let's put it in standard form. I'm going to subtract 30 from both sides of the equation. 0 equals x squared minus x minus 30. Factoring, I have a leading coefficient of a 1. How about a -6 and a +5? -6 times 5 is -30. -6 plus 5 is -1. So you've got a product that's -30 and a sum that's -1. Those two numbers. Take each factor that contains a variable, set it equal to 0, and solve it. X minus 6 equals 0. We'll add 6 to both sides of the equation. X equals 6. X plus 5 equals 0. We'll subtract 5 from both sides of the equation. X equals -5. As in the last example, we're being asked to find lengths or distances, heights, bases. So a negative answer, even though it works in our equation, doesn't fit the actual problem. If x is 6, the base would be 6, the height would be 6 minus 1 or 5. Now, the area was square centimeters, which means that our height and base are in centimeters. So height equals 5 centimeters, base equals 6 centimeters. Be sure to be careful in WebAssign in terms of units. Sometimes you are required to put the unit in the answer. Sometimes the units are included outside the box of the answer. So pay close attention to what's going on there so that you don't miss something when you knew the right answer. All right, any questions about this problem? Okay, let's go to another example. Let's see here. this says, refer to the diagram of a sail shown here. And we have this picture of a sail. So this would be a right angle, and we're told that the area is 24 square feet. This is called the foot of the sail, and this is called the loof. So in terms of a triangle, the foot would be the base and the loof would be the height, but that they're giving it those names. Okay, it says the length of the loof is 3 times the length of the foot of the sail. So if the foot is X, the loof would be 3X, okay? And we're told from the picture that the area is 24 square feet. So area of a triangle is 1/2 the base times the height. So 24 equals 1/2 the base times the height. Okay. So 24 equals, simplifying the right side, 1/2 times X times 3X would be 3/2 X squared. Okay. I've got a fraction again. I just assume get rid of it. I'm going to multiply both sides by the least common denominator, which is 2. So on the left side, I get 48. And on the right side, the 2's reduced down and I get 3X squared. And I could have cleared the fractions after I put it in standard form. I just chose to do it first. To put this thing in standard form, I will subtract 48 from both sides of the equation. So I get 0 equals 3X squared minus 48. Well, let's see. The right side of the equation, I can factor out a greatest common factor of a 3. And then what remains is the difference of 2 squares, x plus 4, x minus 4. Take each factor that contains a variable and set it equal to 0. Again, don't set 3 equal to 0. 3 isn't equal to 0. 3 equals 3. Solving the first equation, we'll subtract 4 from both sides. X equals -4. Solving the second equation, we'll add 4 to both sides. X equals +4. And for the third time in a row, we've got a positive and a negative value. We're dealing with distance, length, foot, loof, whatever. Negative distance does not apply. That you can't have a negative distance. So if X is 4, this is 4, and 3X would equal 12. And our units were, let's see, the area, I should have written square feet. So the units would be in feet. So the foot is 4 feet and the loof is 12 feet. Any questions about this example? All right. Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
For the loof, you just times the 4 times 3, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
X, and since X was 4, 3 times 4. Yeah, precisely.
Thank you.
You bet. Anything else before we go on?
No, thanks.
Okay. Let's talk about integers. What are integers? Well, let's see. -5, -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., and etc. So, So integers can be positive or negative. They go in both directions forever. But consecutive integers are 1 apart. So let's say I called this integer, -4, I called it x. What would the next integer up the line be? It would be x plus 1. And the next integer up would be x plus 2, etc. Right? Because integers are 1 unit apart. Okay. So consecutive integers would be x, x plus 1, x plus 2, etc. Any questions about that? All right, now what about consecutive odd? Now let's do evens first. Let's do evens. Even integers. Well, let's see. Let's call this one x. What would the next consecutive even integer be in terms of x? X plus 2. And the next one, x plus 4. And the next one, x plus 6, right? So x plus 2, x plus 4, because even integers go up by 2s. We okay with that? Any questions?
Nope.
All right. Let's take a look at consecutive odd integers. Well, let's say this is the first one. What's the next one up in line? It'd be x plus 2 again. And the next one, x plus 4. Because odd integers, consecutive odd integers, go up by 2s. You might say, well, if they're odd, how can it go up by 2? Well, what's an odd integer plus 2? It's another odd integer, right? The next one up. So consecutive integers go up by 1s. Consecutive odds or consecutive evens go up by 2s. Any questions? All right, let's take a look at this problem. The car numbers, it says NASCAR. The car numbers of drivers Casey Kane and Scott Riggs are consecutive positive integers whose product is 90. If Kane's car number is the smaller, what is the number of each car? All right, so we've got 2 consecutive positive integers. So 2 consecutive positive integers. So x and x plus 1, right? They're not consecutive odds or consecutive evens. It just said consecutive, but they're positive because NASCAR cars don't have negative numbers on them. I guess if somebody was really bad, no, let's not go there. All right. It says the car numbers of the drivers are consecutive positive integers whose product is 90. So x times x plus 1 equals 90. Okay. Any questions so far? So now x squared plus x equals 90. This is a second degree equation. So let's put everything on one side of the equation, set equal to 0 on the other side of the equation. We have a trinomial in standard form with no greatest common factor. It's not a perfect square and it has a leading coefficient of a 1. Let's see, the product is negative 90 and the sum is 1. How about 10 and negative 9? Okay. So take each factor that contains a variable and set it equal to 0. And then solve each of those equations. Subtract 10 from both sides. X is negative 10. Add 9 to both sides. X equals 9. Now, we're not talking about a distance or a length, but we are talking about consecutive positive integers. Therefore, x equals negative 10 is not a valid answer. So x is 9. X plus 1 would be 9 plus 1, which is 10. So the numbers are 9 and 10. Now it said Kane's car number is the smaller. What is the number of each car? So Kane's, let's see, I don't know if I'm saying that name right, but Kane's would be, it's the smaller number 9, and Riggs would be 10. Any questions about that? Okay. So we've looked at rectangles. We've looked at areas of triangles. I should have said areas of rectangles, areas of triangles, consecutive positive or consecutive integers, consecutive odds, consecutive evens. Now we're going to go back and look at a triangle problem again, except now we're not dealing with the area so much as the length of the three sides of the triangle? Well, there was a guy named Pythagoras that lived many, many years ago, and he came up with what is known as the Pythagorean theorem. And what that says is this: if you have a right triangle, that's a triangle that has one right angle, a 90-degree angle, the two sides are perpendicular to each other. The side across from the right angle is called the hypotenuse. And the other two sides are called the legs. Okay. Now, for the sake of a formula that we're going to use, the hypotenuse is always called C, and the two legs are called A and B. And as we're going to see in a minute, it doesn't matter which leg is A and which leg is B in terms of the formula. The formula says this: A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So the length of one of the legs, the quantity squared, plus the length of the other leg, the quantity squared, equals the length of the hypotenuse squared. Again, the hypotenuse is always the longest side, the side across from the right angle. Okay, so Pythagorean theorem. If you've done any construction, you've probably used this at some point to get square corners and things. But anyway, all right. Now, this first problem says wind damage. A tree was blown over in a windstorm. Find X, then find the height of the tree when it was standing upright. Okay, so let's draw a picture here and we'll see how poor my art skills are. We've got the ground and we've got the trunk of the tree where it broke off. And then let's see here. We've got, now you know why I'm not teaching art class. Not that there was ever any question. Okay, and we're told the following information. We're told that this is X feet. This is X plus 2 feet. And this is X plus 4 feet. Now, we're assuming that the trunk of the tree originally was straight. So that piece that's still there should form a right angle with the ground. So basically our triangle is like this. So there's our right triangle, and we have the three sides labeled as X, X plus 2, and X plus 4. Okay? Any questions about that? So there's our picture. A tree was blown over in a windstorm. Find X. You've probably all seen that comic thing where somebody circles and they go, it's right here. Okay, that's not what we're doing today. We're actually going to find the value of it. Then find the height of the tree when it was standing upright. So, using the Pythagorean theorem and labeling things, let's see here. We're going to call this A, and this B, and this C. Notice again, the hypotenuse, the longest side, has to be C. So if A squared plus B squared equals C squared, we get the following: X plus 2, the quantity squared, plus X, the quantity squared, equals X plus 4, the quantity squared. All right, so we've got some foiling to do. X plus 2, the quantity squared, would be X plus 2 times X plus 2, which is X squared plus 2X plus 2X plus 4. X squared is X squared. x plus 4, the quantity squared, is x squared plus 4x plus 4x plus 16. Still with me? Hopefully. Right. Simplifying both sides by combining like terms, we get 2x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals x squared plus 8x plus 16. This is a second degree equation. So I want to put everything on one side of the equation set equal to 0 on the other side of the equation. I'd also like to have my leading coefficient positive because it makes it easier to deal with. Since I've got 2x squared on the left and 1x squared on the right, I'm going to move everything to the left side. That way I'll still have a positive coefficient for my x squared terms. So I'm going to subtract x squared from both sides. I'm going to subtract 8x from both sides, and I'm going to subtract 16 from both sides. So now I get x squared minus 4x minus 12 equals 0. Okay, so after all of that, I've got my second degree equation in standard form. Okay. It's got a leading coefficient of 1. Let's see. How about minus 6 and plus 2? That would give me a product of negative 12 and a sum of negative 4. Okay. Take each factor that contains a variable and set it equal to 0. And then solve it. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides. X equals 6. I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. X equals negative 2. I know, here it comes again. Once again, we're looking for distances or lengths, so we can't have a negative. Okay. So X is 6. So this would be 6 feet. 6 plus 2 is 8 feet. 6 plus 4 is 10 feet. So find X, that was 6. Then find, so X equals 6 feet. Then find the height of the tree when it was standing up. Well, the height of the tree would be this piece plus this piece. 10 feet plus 6 feet is 16 feet. So height equals 16 feet. And then X is just X equals 6 feet. And you can use the FT or the little tick mark. I don't know if in WebAssign you can use that little tick mark or not. Now, let's see. I had something profound I was going to say. Can't remember what it was. Oh, well. Let's see here. Oh, one of the things that happens on this problem sometimes is people get here and they stop and they don't read that last piece of the problem, okay, that says the height of the entire tree. So you've got to remember to stand that up. Okay. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I knew it would come to me eventually. So all these problems that we've looked at, the negative answers we threw out. There are problems where you actually keep the negative answer and throw out a positive answer. It just depends on what the directions say. Don't do this. I had a student years ago that did this, and I still remember because it was like, oh, it was a Greek tragedy. Okay. So they went through and took the entire chapter 6 test. The very last problem involved a triangle and finding, a triangle kind of like this. And when they found the two answers to the equations and one was negative, the light went off. It's like, oh yeah, I can't have a negative distance. So they crossed out the negative answer. And that would have been great if they'd stopped there. But then for some reason, they went back through the entire test and all of the problems where they were factoring and solving an equation, they crossed out the negative answers. Oh, no. Context. When you're dealing with a problem where your value is a distance or a length or something like that, then yes, it's got to be just positive. But if you're just taking a quadratic or second degree equation and solving it by factoring, both answers are valid answers, solutions to the equations. If it's connected with an application, then you've got to reconsider whether the answers are valid or not. So just be careful of that. All right. Do you have any questions about anything? Okay, so we've looked at area of a rectangle, length times width, area of a triangle, 1/2 base times height. Oops, helps if you spell it correctly. A squared plus B squared equals C squared for dealing with lengths of sides of a right triangle, consecutive integers, consecutive odds or consecutive evens. All right. So tonight, your homework is to do 6.8. And then if you can, complete the chapter review, because tomorrow during class, we're going to review for the test that's on Monday. If you don't get the chapter review done ahead of time, you can't ask questions about it. That's the reason to try and get it done before tomorrow's class. Okay. And just a reminder, the test is on Monday. You can take it any time before Monday, as long, or up until Monday at 11:59 p.m. when you have to be finished. Okay. Once you open the test, the time starts. You can't stop and come back later. Okay. So for tomorrow, 6.8 and the chapter review. I will be back this afternoon at 1:15 with an office hour. Should you have any questions? With that, we'll stop